Hey, Suge, thank you for calling back.
Hey, I'd like to say this too real quick. You got a woman that works for you is really incredible.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug. People that follow me understand it's from my mouth to God's ear. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's from my mouth to God's ear.
Do you what could have possibly made one of Hollywood's smoothest personalities? Did he lose his composure in the courtroom? And what exactly did Suge Knight say that left the entire room stunned? And did he visibly shaken?
Hey, I'd like to say this too real quick. You got a woman that works for you is really incredible. You don't find too many people.
I thought you were about to implicate her in the investigation. I'm just glad you're not implicating Dusty in the investigation, Suge, because I can't take that.
No, she's not in the investigation.
All right,
but what
good.
I want to do for her is, I want to. Hey, look, hey, I got to do this for her, but I want to turn her on to this clothing line called Girls Mondays to Sunday. Girl Monday to Sunday, and I'm definitely gonna look out for it because I buy a lot of people from that place. But look, what I was basically trying to say is this: I respect your show, and respect what you're doing, but most important thing is there's got to be a solution, because this has been going on in the industry for a whole bunch of years, for decades.
Cassie tells the story how D-Rock and Puff put on this all black stuff and took the guns out because they saw that Suge Knight may not have had or heard somebody, because that's how they do. You know, your man them is on the street, they out there, and they'll give a phone call. Yo, the nigga Suge is right here, man. Seem like the nigga probably be by himself or whatever like that. You know, because some of us big dogs, we run by ourselves.
The courtroom was packed. Every seat taken, every corner filled with journalists, photographers, and curious onlookers straining for a glimpse of the drama about to unfold. The air was thick with anticipation, the kind of tension that makes every cough, every shuffled paper, feel deafening. When Diddy entered, the room seemed to shift. Dressed to the nines, radiating confidence, he moved with the same effortless swagger that's defined his decades-long reign over the music industry. He nodded to his lawyers, took a seat, straight-backed and stoic. For a moment, it looked like nothing could rattle him. But as the trial progressed, that polished exterior started to chip, then crack, then completely shattered at first. He sat still, his face unreadable as a legal back and forth played out. But the cameras didn't miss the small tells, a clenched jaw, eyes darting toward the gallery where Cassie sat. Calm, collected, and unwavering. It wasn't until her legal team began laying out their case that the temperature in the room truly changed, that Cassie's voice was steady, her words sharp and deliberate. The allegations were serious, the evidence damning. As each point landed, you could almost see the weight of it all pressing down on Diddy. He leaned forward, rubbing his hands together, his gaze narrowing, the charm, the cool gone. Then came the breaking point to say a particularly intense portion of the testimony was read aloud. Diddy muttered something under his breath, shook his head, and began whispering urgently to his legal team. One witness described him as visibly shaken, while a reporter noted that he looked like a man unraveling in real time. This was Diddy, a man who built his legend on being untouchable, unflappable, through East Coast versus West Coast wars, business deals, and decades in the spotlight. He was the guy who never cracked. And now, he was rubbing his temples with both hands, as if trying to physically push away the pressure. Courtroom breakdowns aren't rare in high-stakes cases, but this wasn't just anyone. This was Diddy, and it raised a serious question. What had shaken him this badly? Then, the answer revealed itself that Cassie's legal team introduced a piece of evidence no one saw coming. Whatever it was, it hit Diddy hard. His composure slipped even further. He froze, his expression morphing from frustration to something closer to disbelief, even fear. Whatever they just presented, it struck a deep nerve. But just when it felt like the trial had reached its peak, the real shock of day walked in, Suge Knight. His unexpected entrance sucked the air out of the room. Eyes turned, whispers erupted. Even Diddy seemed stunned. Suge's presence alone was enough to shift the entire mood, but it was what he said that truly rocked the courtroom. Why was Suge siding with Cassie? What did he know? And more importantly, why did he choose this moment to show up?
You said early on, you can't just look at Diddy in isolation. You said this was done to him. He learned from others, and it was done to him, and then he did to others. To me, That sounds like what I hear when people are talking about abusive situations, you know, hurt people, that someone was sexually abused, they wind up being a perpetrator. Is that what you're suggesting about Sean Combs, that he was sexually abused and he now sexually abuses?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think he repeat what was done to him. And like I said, if you look at Russell Simmons, you know the truth. Andre Rail, you know the truth. Pride Davis, you know the truth. Jimmy Iovine, you know the truth. So there's not certain things that all of a sudden you got this. The industry is a quick business. It's been like that for a long time. And the casting couch is real, but it's for women and men. But far from all that, I think the most important thing is I feel like they should let Puffy tell his truth. I'm quite sure he's going to expose a lot of people. I'm sure he's going to move forward with it. But I don't think it should be a situation like the Epstein thing where they found him hanging from the ceiling or dead before the truth come out.
Do you believe
I think
that
the truth needs to be...
The tension in the courtroom was already thick. You could feel it hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. But when Suge Knight made his entrance, it was as if the atmosphere itself collapsed. The room fell silent. It wasn't just that Suge showed up, it was how he did it. Unannounced, slow, deliberate, and with the kind of gravity only Suge Knight could bring. This was no ordinary guest. This was Suge Knight, the infamous founder of Death Row Records, a towering figure in hip-hop history with a reputation for being just as feared as he was respected. The man who helped shape the gritty sound of West Coast rap, and who stood as the antithesis to everything Diddy represented in the golden era of hip-hop. Their rivalry? Legendary. Diddy, the face of Bad Boy Records, polished and commercial. Suge, the raw power of Death Row, unfiltered, unbothered, and unafraid. For years, their feud symbolized a brutal East Coast versus West Coast battle that defined an era and claimed lives. The two men were never allies. They were fire and gasoline. So when Suge walked into that courtroom and appeared to align himself with Cassie, jaws dropped. Whispers erupted across the gallery. Spectators leaned in. Even Cassie's legal team seemed momentarily frozen. What was Suge Knight doing here? He wasn't there to be a passive observer. He came to speak to wearing a sharp, dark suit and moving with the quiet dominance of someone who'd spent decades navigating power. Suge took his seat calmly, scanned the room, and locked eyes with Diddy. The look was cold. Final. A silent message passed between them. Whatever was coming next, Diddy felt it. What made Suge's appearance all the more shocking wasn't just the historical bad blood. It was that Suge doesn't make public moves like this without a reason. He doesn't show up in courtrooms just to make a scene. Not unless he has something to say or settle something. He did. When Suge finally stood, the silence was complete. There was no bravado, no aggression, just a calm, authoritative tone that echoed through the room. He didn't name names or lay out graphic details. He didn't need to. Instead, he spoke of accountability, of truth, of the things the industry has tried for years to bury. He hinted that he knew more about Diddy's past than most people dared to admit, more than what's been whispered in rumors and conspiracy theories. He called them asterisk industry skeletons. Asterisk, and even without specifics, those words landed with force. You could feel the weight behind them. Everyone in that courtroom, from the jury to the journalists, was left wondering, what exactly does Suge Knight know why now? And what did Diddy do to make his old enemy rise from the shadows to speak for Cassie? Was it revenge? A long simmering vendetta finally boiling over? Maybe. Suge certainly has reason to take a shot. But it didn't feel like just revenge. There was something more measured in his tone. As if this wasn't just personal, it was strategic, maybe even righteous. And then, just as it seemed Suge might end his speech on a philosophical note, he dropped the bombshell without a single sentence. Calm, controlled, explosive. IT wasn't just a show of support for Cassie. It was a direct accusation. A statement that dragged Diddy's past into the center of the courtroom and cracked the case wide open at NO shouting. No drama, just cold, quiet truth. And in that moment, it was no longer just a trial. IT was a reckoning.
I'm in prison right now. I had a great run. So I don't go sleep mad. I don't wake up mad. I've been locked up for 10 years, and I ain't had a bad day yet. And there's a lot of things we can do to help each other, and it's never too late for help. God blessed us to have a voice. Let's use our voice. I had told Puffy a while back. I told TD Jakes a while back. Come on, collect calls. We can politic. There's one thing for certain, one thing for sure. You're just not gonna walk away with one scratch on it.
Do you think?
Like that.
Do you think that Diddy?
He can do so.
Do you think Diddy knows enough that it's a very delicate balance that maybe investigators will want to know these other names and greatly reduce his exposure to criminality, to time, versus what people would do to keep him quiet?
Number one, I've been knowing him a long time, and we was friends. We're not enemies, but we were friends. He's not a dummy, so he's smart enough to work his magic. On top of that, this man right here, he been involved with the FBI for most of his career. It's not like he don't have no moves. So I don't think nobody should just count him out. I don't think he gonna lay down and just crawl in the corner and die. He probably going through a lot of right now because he probably going through a lot of withdrawals for the drugs. But the industry got him on drugs. And see, they do these things to take control. They're not doing, there's nothing wrong with being gay. If you choose to be gay, that's your preference. But they doing this to people for control. It's a power situation.
Suge,
And they've been having the power of the, yes.
I appreciate your perspective on this. And I just want to get something very clear, because if what you're saying is true, and I'm not questioning your credibility, I can't assess it. I don't know. So
Right.
then he's got people who are the biggest names in the business who
I ain't
helped
trying
him.
to cut you off, but if any of those people I mentioned don't have no drinks and don't do no powder with it, you'll find out. I don't want you to be right.
The courtroom was dead silent as Suge Knight slowly rose from his seat. All eyes were locked on him. Tension, already sky high after his shocking decision to side with Cassie, now threatened to erupt. Even Diddy, who had been visibly restless since Suge's arrival, couldn't hide the pressure anymore. He leaned forward slightly, arms on the table, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on his longtime nemesis. He knew what was coming wouldn't be good. Suge didn't ease into his statement. No greetings, no small talk. His voice was low, but sharp and deliberate, the kind that slices through a crowd and demands attention. He didn't waste time. He came for impact. Suge claimed Diddy's pristine industry image was a carefully engineered illusion. He painted a picture of a man whose rise wasn't just built on talent or timing, but on power moves made in the dark. He spoke of hidden agendas, backroom dealings, and a culture of intimidation that kept people silent. He didn't name names. He didn't need to. The implications were heavy, and they hung in the air like smoke. Then came the real blow. With the kind of directness only Suge Knight could deliver, he accused Diddy of orchestrating misconduct, not just isolated moments, but a pattern of behavior used to protect and expand his empire. Suge hinted that more people knew the truth, and that Cassie might just be the first of many to step into the light. The courtroom froze. There were no loud gasps, just a stillness, so dense it felt like time paused. Suge hadn't detailed specific events, but the timing of his words during Cassie's explosive legal case gave them gravity. This wasn't just a man speaking out. This was a calculated strike, one that perfectly aligned with the narrative Cassie's team had been laying out from day one to now. It's worth noting, Suge Knight isn't a stranger to controversy. His history with the law, his volatile public image, and his history of throwing wild accusations make him a complicated figure. But this time felt different. This didn't feel like a man lashing out for attention. It felt like a man settling a score, and maybe, just maybe, telling the truth that Diddy's reaction was immediate and visible. At first, he just sat there, stunned, silent, expression unreadable. But then, as Suge continued, Diddy started whispering furiously to his lawyers. He wasn't yelling, not yet, but his body language betrayed him. He shook his head. He gestured sharply. One witness claimed he looked like he was trying to keep from exploding. Then it happened, just as Suge delivered the final line of his statement. Asterisk, for years, This man has controlled the illusion, but the truth comes for everyone eventually. Asterisk. The courtroom seemed to tilt. Diddy snapped. He slammed his hands on the table, muttering something loud enough to turn heads. His face was flushed, his control gone. Security reportedly moved into a ready position, just in case. His lawyers leaned in fast, tried to calm him down, but the damage was done. Diddy, the man known for maintaining cool under fire, had cracked. Publicly. Outside the courtroom, headlines erupted within minutes. Suge Knight accuses Diddy of industry cover-ups. Sparks courtroom outburst. Diddy loses composure as Suge drops bombshell allegations. Public opinion was split. Some dismissed Suge's words as a tired publicity stunt. Others, especially those who followed the Cassie case and other whisper campaigns, saw it as confirmation of long-held suspicions. Social media lit up with debate. Was this the beginning of a reckoning? Would others now come forward? And perhaps more importantly, had Diddy's legacy finally met its match inside the courtroom? The mood had shifted entirely. Cassie's legal team appeared energized, almost relieved, like Suge's statement had handed them unexpected ammunition. And while Diddy's attorneys scrambled to steer the narrative back to legal arguments, one truth was undeniable. The trial had changed. The tone had changed. And Diddy was no longer just facing Cassie's accusations.
I don't care who you are. Prison and jail is a negative environment. Somebody can do something to them and get a name for themselves, they're going to actually do it. Or they can do whatever they feel they got to do to prove themselves. But we also got to learn. We got to learn from our mistakes. Everything don't have to be a mistake. You got to better yourself. But we all know what we sign up for in life. So if I sign up to be a football player, I knew I'm going to get hit and I'm going to hurt some other too. I signed up to be in the music business and the entertainment business. If you fight for right and being a black man, there's certain things you got to look at for the challenges.
You understand? But you got to keep your head on the swivel and keep that thing on you at all times. Because if it got to go down, it should go down in a kamikaze fashion. So Suge Knight, they get a call. Yo, Suge look like he by himself. Y'all could probably get there. See now, I know it's got to be the drugs with Puff.
Throughout the trial, Cassie remained the embodiment of composure, seated quietly at her table. She kept her eyes forward, rarely reacting to the chaos swirling around her, while Diddy fidgeted in his seat, visibly agitated and unraveling. Cassie exuded a quiet strength. Observers noted her restraint, not as weakness, but as something calculated. She wasn't there for spectacle. She was there for justice. But when Suge Knight unexpectedly entered the courtroom, something in the atmosphere changed. The tension doubled. Eyes shifted, yet Cassie didn't flinch. If anything, her stillness deepened, her expression unreadable. It no longer seemed like she was just being silent. It looked like she was executing a strategy. And when Suge stood to speak, the gallery turned to Cassie, expecting some reaction. Was she surprised by this unexpected ally? Or had she known this was coming all along? Her face gave nothing away. No gasp, no startled glance, no shift in posture. She sat tall, calm, completely in control. It was a power move without saying a word. In a room crackling with suspense, her lack of reaction said everything. This wasn't luck. This was purpose. Suge's statement hit like a thunderclap. But beyond the way of his words, it was the way his presence transformed the courtroom dynamic that truly mattered. Trials, especially high-profile ones, aren't just about facts and legal arguments. They're about perception. And Suge Knight, despite his checkered past, is a name that forces people to pay attention. When someone like him backs you, it shifts the narrative to Cassie's claims. One seen by some of his personal grievances, and she said case now felt part of a larger, darker picture. Suge's testimony didn't just support her, it validated her. His endorsement, unexpected and controversial, gave her case an undeniable edge. Suddenly, her accusations weren't isolated. They were part of a broader pattern, a systemic rot in the industry that more people might soon be forced to confront. Her legal team knew it, Two, you could feel their energy shift the moment Suge finished speaking. It was as if he handed them a new weapon, one they could use to widen the scope of the case, to challenge the idea that Cassie's experiences were unique. Suge's presence didn't just support Cassie. It gave them leverage to argue that others had lived through similar stories, and that Diddy might not be the untouchable mogul he claimed to be. As for Diddy, the pressure was all over his face. The second Suge walked in, you could see the worry settle in. And once Suge started talking, that worry turned to panic. He whispered to his legal team, shook his head, and tried to hold his composure. But it was slipping fast. Meanwhile, Cassie remained poised, like she knew this was a turning point, and she wasn't going to let it shake her. Outside the courtroom, the ripple effect was instant. Suge Knight's appearance set the entertainment world on fire. Social media exploded. Some praised his courage. Others questioned his motives. Was he genuinely supporting Cassie? Or was this just another chapter in his long-running feud with Diddy? But regardless of his intentions, the impact was real. Suge's support gave Cassie a new level of credibility, especially among those who had previously doubted her. If someone with Suge's reputation, someone who owed her nothing, was willing to stand beside her, it forced the public to ask, what does he know that we don't? And more importantly, asterisk, who's next? For Cassie, the effect was undeniable. Her voice, already strong, now carried more weight. Every word she had spoken before now echoed louder. Her story wasn't just a personal account anymore. It was potentially part of a larger reckoning that, of course, Suge's involvement came with risks. His past is a legal minefield, and Diddy's team would surely seize on that, painting him as unreliable, as opportunistic. They'd try to spin this as a publicity stunt, a last-ditch effort to stay relevant. But even with those attacks looming, one thing was certain. Suge's presence had changed the game. Now, the trial wasn't just about Cassie and Diddy. It was about the industry at large, about who else might come forward, about how many stories have been buried, and who would help keep them buried. Through it all, Cassie remained steady. She didn't celebrate Suge's support. She didn't smirk or gloat. She gave Diddy and his lawyers nothing to latch onto, just that same quiet strength, now amplified by the shifting power in the room. With Suge Knight flipping the narrative, the trial took on new energy. Diddy was no longer in control. And Cassie, without ever raising her voice, now held the strongest position she'd had since the beginning.
Do you believe that Diddy is in danger in prison? And do you have advice for him based on what you just said?
Well, the first advice I have, I don't never want to say he's in danger, and neither should he say that. Because once he gets to the point where they feel he's going to be suicidal to himself, harmful to himself, once they put him on suicide watch, you have the rights to nothing. No socks, no drawers, no T-shirt, no blanket, no sheets. You so naked in a cell as a crazy man. So he definitely don't want to do that. And the other advice I would tell him, maybe he should get on the Jewish diet.
Because Puff may have sent somebody, Puff might tell somebody, but for him to put on all black himself and go to do something like that, cocaine is a hell of a drug. Y'all ain't hear what I'm saying. The Puff that I knew would tell Wolf to do something, would tell Riz to do something, had him tell Paul to tell Tottenham to do something.
Sure, here's a rewritten and polished version of your script, maintaining the original message but enhancing clarity, tone, and flow. Perfect for a YouTube documentary-style narration asterisk title, Diddy's Empire Under Fire. The trial that could change everything for decades. Diddy was the embodiment of the hip-hop mogul, a master reinvention who transformed Bad Boy Records into a global powerhouse. He wasn't just a music icon, he was a brand. From chart-topping hits to billion-dollar ventures in fashion and liquor, Diddy built a reputation rooted in power, resilience, and cultural influence. But today, that carefully curated image is on the verge of collapse. From courtroom tension to viral meltdowns and explosive accusations by none other than Suge Knight, everything is unraveling in real time. This isn't just a legal battle. It's a full-blown public reckoning. And it's forcing fans, critics, and the industry alike to question everything they thought they knew about Sean Diddy, Combs, and Cassie's allegations alone were enough to cause waves. But when Suge Knight entered conversation, the stakes skyrocketed. Suddenly, it wasn't just about one accusation. It became a challenge to Diddy's entire legacy. For years, Diddy represented calm leadership, business genius, and an aura of untouchability. Now, those traits are being put to the test. His emotional reaction to Suge's accusations, caught on camera, has painted a different picture. Not power and control, but a man potentially cracking under pressure. And this isn't happening in a vacuum. Public figures who once stood tall, like Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein, show us how quickly legacies can crumble under scrutiny. While Diddy's case may not mirror theirs exactly, the fallout could be just as severe. Once the narrative changes, there's often no going back. Online, the shift in public sentiment is already happening. Longtime fans are torn. Some defend him, saying fame attracts controversy, while others are stepping back, calling this trial a turning point. Even celebrities have chimed in, offering vague statements about accountability and transparency. But notably, most avoid naming Diddy directly. It feels like everyone is watching and waiting. Meanwhile, media coverage has been relentless. Every courtroom gesture, every whisper exchange with his legal team has been analyzed. With Suge Knight throwing in heavy accusations, the media's lens has zoomed out, examining Diddy's past, old rumors, and once-ignored industry whispers. This has evolved into more than just a court case. It's a full-scale dissection of Diddy's public image. And that's the danger. Once you lose control of your narrative, regaining it becomes nearly impossible. Suge Knight's claims might seem wild to some, but they've opened doors. Conversations that were once taboo are now taking place. Could these statements lead to deeper investigations? Suge suggested that Diddy's current situation is just the tip of the iceberg. If others come forward, this could snowball into something far more devastating than anyone imagined. Even if Suge's credibility is debated, his bold public stance has already triggered doubt and court public opinion. That might be all it takes. Now Diddy faces a critical choice: fight publicly or settle quietly. A settlement could be interpreted as guilt, but fighting means enduring continued media scrutiny and social backlash. Either path comes with a price, and many believe the damage is already done. This trial is pulling at the very threads of a legacy Diddy spent decades building. And as it unravels, the image we once saw, the poised, unshakable mogul, may never be the same to die in the end. It's not just about legal documents or celebrity rivalries. It's about truth, legacy, and whether Diddy, once considered untouchable, can withstand the collapse of the empire he built. That Cassie's courage, Suge Knight's shock value, and Diddy's own responses will likely shape how history remembers him. This is no longer just a celebrity scandal. It's a battle for identity, reputation, and the future of one of hip-hop's biggest names. And the most pressing question still remains: what else might come to light? Let us know what you think in the comments. Is Diddy the victim of fame, or is this long overdue accountability? Don't forget to subscribe, because this story is far from over.